As with my other videos, this video has a disclaimer. This video contains themes of an abusive relationship and the brutal murder of a teenager. If this is a sensitive subject for you, then leave the video now. Rebecca Oatley Aylward was born on February 28, 1995, in the South Wales town of Maesteg in Mid Glamorgan. The eldest child of John Aylward and Sonia Oatley, she had a sister Jessica, born in 1998, and a brother Jack, born in 2002. While I could not find much information on her father, I read that Rebecca, known to her friends as Becca, was extremely close to her mother and younger siblings. Becca was known to be an almost maternal figure to her siblings, and thoroughly enjoyed spending time with them. In school, Becca was known to be extremely intelligent, and teachers would later comment that they, quote, wished they had a class full of Rebeccas. She was also known to support other students when necessary, whether this was if they were being bullied or if they needed help with schoolwork. After Becca started secondary school in Archbishop McGrath Catholic High School, she started considering her future career and wanted to be a Crown Prosecution Service barrister. Outside of her desire to become a barrister, she would spend hours designing her ideal wedding dress and planning every last detail of her future wedding. Like many teenage girls, Becca started to fall in love, and in 2008 she met Joshua Davis, who was in her school year. Becca's mother would comment that Davis was welcomed into the family almost immediately, and it seemed that he enjoyed spending time with Becca's family. He became quite close to Jack, Rebecca's brother. Joshua Davis, usually known as Josh, was born in 1995 and has two younger brothers. His parents are Hayley, a housewife, and Stephen Davis, a carer. By all accounts, Davis was doted on by his parents and brothers, and his family were churchgoers. He had a perfectly normal upbringing, and there is nothing to suggest that he was in any way abnormal or unusual, though from around the age of 9 or 10, he began collecting antique knives and guns, and would display these in his bedroom. Much like Becca, Davis was described by teachers who knew him as an extremely intelligent and capable student. He was a keen rugby player and was part of a close group of friends, of whom he appeared to be the leader. Though his friendship group was not considered to be the, quote, popular boys, Becca began to notice him, likely in part because he stood out as the leader of his friends. Davis and Becca became a couple in October 2009. Becca was infatuated with Davis, her first boyfriend. Sonia would comment that he became a part of their daily lives, and that he once told her, quote, I'll always protect her, no matter what happens. The two appeared to be very happy together. On the last weekend of January 2010, Davies spent the whole weekend with Becca and her family. Becca painted his nails, they put on costumes, and took silly photos together. As Davies was leaving the family home, he thanked Sonia for including him in her family and told her, quote, I have had the best weekend of my life. Unfortunately, only 2 hours after leaving Becca's house, Davies texted her saying he wanted to end the relationship. This sudden breakup came as a huge shock to Becca, especially after they had just spent the weekend very happy together. There were no warning signs that their relationship was troubled. It's unclear exactly why Davies broke up with Becca, but Davies spread one rumour, the first of many, that Becca was trying to trick him into getting her pregnant. In addition to this, he claimed that Becca was going to allege that he had raped her. Becca, on the other hand, claimed that the real reason for their breakup was because Davies refused to use a condom during sex. Davies then began a ruthless hate campaign against Becca, and did all he could to ensure that others turned on her, even if this meant telling lies about her. This included trying to get Becca's own friends to turn on her. Before long, Davies began fantasizing about how he planned to kill Becca. So intense was his hatred of Becca that he began telling his close group of friends about his plans to murder her. Initially they thought Davies was joking, and played along with his fantasies of what he wanted to do to Becca. This included pushing her into a river because she couldn't swim, or pushing her into a quarry. He even discussed the possibility of poisoning her with foxglove and deadly nightshade. Despite how poorly Davis had treated Becca in the months after their breakup, she was still completely infatuated with him, but it's unclear if she knew of the extent of his hatred of her. It's possible, though it has never been confirmed, that Davis had tried to carry out his plan to poison Becca during the summer of 2010. Becca suddenly fell ill and began having sudden, unexplained blackouts. She was even admitted to hospital for tests, but these tests were unable to establish the cause of this mysterious illness. Sonia recalled that while many of Becca's friends came to visit her while she was in hospital, not once did Davis visit her or show any concern for her health. Granted, Davis and Becca were separated by this point, and although Sonia knew that the two had had a fractious relationship, she genuinely thought that Davis might have visited her daughter. Not only was Davis not concerned about Becca during this time, he is known to have continued discussing his plans to murder her. The reason I suspect that Davis had tried to poison Becca is because in the aftermath of what would eventually happen to Becca, police found a concoction of foxglove and deadly nightshade, mixed with Coca-Cola, in his grandparents' summer house. Davis and his friends had a weekly meeting in a cafe after rugby training on Saturday mornings. They would meet in the cafe for breakfast, during which time Davis would continue his discussions on wanting to kill his ex-girlfriend. It's worth noting at this point that none of Davis's, in quotes, friends seemed to put a stop to these disturbing discussions. I understand that they may have thought he was simply joking, and was saying these things because he did not like Becca, but the friends should have known when to toe the line. On one occasion, Davis was texting a friend and asked what he would do if he killed Becca, to which the friend replied, quote, "I'd buy you breakfast." Davis and Becca began their final year of secondary education in September 2010. Becca began dating another boy, Josh Humphreys. Despite how poorly he had treated Becca in the months after their breakup, Davis was not happy. In fact, people would report that he seemed jealous and wanted her back. On October the 21st, 2010, Davis texted a friend and simply said, quote, "Don't say anything, but you might just owe me breakfast." The friend responded, quote, "Best text I've ever read, mate. Seriously, if it's true, I'm happy to pay for your breakfast." Davis replied, quote, "I hope by then it will be done and dusted." One day later, on October the 22nd, Davis texted Becca and asked to meet. In spite of everything he had done to her, Becca was still infatuated with Davis, despite now being in a relationship with another boy, and had always hoped that Davis would ask her out again. Sonia recalled that Becca was so happy that she went shopping in Cardiff for new clothes to look as perfect as possible for Davis. Davis and Becca agreed to meet in Aberkenfig Woods, just over 6 miles from Maesteg, on October the 23rd. Davis then changed his Facebook profile picture to a picture of the aforementioned woods. This detail is particularly important because Sonia later stated that Davis would change his profile picture whenever he was about to do something significant in his life. Becca woke up early on the morning of October the 23rd and was simply too excited to return to sleep, so her mother drew her a bath to help ease her nerves. Becca's family would recall that on this day, Becca was singing and dancing in her room while getting ready to meet Davis. Meanwhile, Joshua Davis returned home briefly, went upstairs to get some things from his bedroom, and simply told his mother that he was meeting his friends for breakfast in the cafe. After having breakfast, Davis left the cafe and told one of his friends, quote, "The time has come." At 12:30 p.m, Becca's aunt Linda collected her from her home to take her to a nearby railway station, after which Becca would walk to Aberkenfig to meet Davis. Before leaving, Becca said to Sonia, quote, "Bye, ma'am, I love you." At some point, however, Davis texted Becca to say he wanted to change their meeting place. Becca phoned her mother to say she was now in Pandy Park, which concerned Sonia as this was not part of the plan. Sonia said she would remain on the phone until Davis arrived. On Church Street, Becca seemed happy and told Sonia that she could see Davis walking towards her. Despite Sonia's concerns, Becca assured her that all was well and that Davis was standing in front of her. Unlike other occasions, however, when Davis would talk to Sonia on the phone, he remained totally silent. The phone call then ended, and Davis and Becca ventured into Aberkenfig Woods. Whether or not she and Davis had been arguing, or if Becca simply stopped talking for a few minutes, is unclear, but while Becca was facing away from Davis at some point, Davis, totally unprovoked, proceeded to try and break Becca's neck, but was unsure how to do so. After Becca began screaming, Davis, who was around 6 feet tall and quite sturdy for his age, picked up a nearby rock that was roughly, quote, the size of a rugby ball, and began striking Becca, who was only around 5 feet tall and of a slight build, in the head with this rock. He did not stop until Becca's skull had caved in, killing her. He then tossed the rock into a nearby bush. As Becca's bloodied and battered body lay face down and spread eagle on the forest floor, Davis's friends were waiting outside the woods. One of his friends called him and asked if he was still with Becca. Davis, laughing, replied, quote, "Define with." Another one of Davis's friends messaged him, quote, "I want all of the details, you sadistic bastard. Winky face." Davis invited his best friend, known as Boy B, to come and see Becca's body. Boy B recalled how he felt, quote, freezing cold after seeing Becca's lifeless body on the forest floor, and how Davis was not at all upset or disturbed by what he had just done. In fact, Davis went on to describe what had happened and asked Boy B, quote, "Do you know how hard it is to break someone's neck?" He explained that the worst part of the whole experience was, quote, seeing Becca's skull give way. Davis then invited 2 other friends to view Becca's body and asked one of them, quote, "Why don't you pull her hood back and take a look at her face?" After the brutal frenzied murder, Davis spent the evening watching Strictly Come Dancing at his grandmother's house, all while Becca's body lay face down in Aberkenfig Woods. He updated his Facebook status, saying, quote, "I enjoyed a rather good day and had a lovely breakfast." Davis tried further to cover his tracks by posting that he had been with friends, watched Strictly at his grandmother's, and watched the 2007 film No Country for Old Men. By 5 p.m, Becca had still not returned home, and her family became concerned. They began asking Becca's friends if they had seen or heard from her. The family even drove to Aberkenfig to see if she was still there. Eventually, they informed the police that Becca was missing. Initially, police worked on the theory that Becca had gone to a party, got drunk and was staying away from home until she had sobered up. Sonia, however, refuted this claim and stated that not only did Becca not drink, but that she had had a particularly bad experience with alcohol during the summer, after which she vowed she would never drink again. Sonia even phoned Davis to tell him that Becca was missing, but he told her that he had not seen Becca that day. Davis texted Becca asking her to, quote, get in touch, because, quote, we're all worried. Police quickly mobilized their search for Becca. Davis had planned to return to the woods so that he could bury Becca's body, but this plan was thwarted on Sunday the 24th of October, when one of Davis's friends cracked and told his parents that Becca may have come to harm, and where he had seen her body. That same friend led police to Becca's body in Aberkenfig Woods. Her body was still lying face down on the forest floor. A post-mortem concluded that Becca had died of head injuries. The post-mortem also found that there were no defensive injuries on Becca's body, meaning she could not have expected that Davis would turn on her. Davis was arrested and questioned by police. Almost immediately, he pinned the blame on his friend, Boy B. Davis claimed that Becca's death was a tragic accident, saying that he and Becca had staged a prank on Boy B in which Becca pretended to be dead. After Becca jumped up and scared Boy B, he reacted so angrily that he picked up a nearby rock and began beating Becca with it. When asked why he did not intervene, Davis simply said that he did not know what to do, so he went home and watched Strictly. After Davis's parents were informed that their son had been arrested on suspicion of murder, Stephen Davis spent 16 hours a day for 4 days in the Cardiff police station. where Josh Davis was being detained. Neither parent believed that Davis was responsible for this brutal murder and stood by him wholeheartedly. 2 other 15-year-old boys were also arrested in connection with the murder, as police believed that there may have been more than one person involved in Becca's death. It transpired that one of these boys hated Becca because he had asked her out the year before, but she turned him down. Joshua Davis's trial opened on June the 23rd, 2011, at Swansea Crown Court. Forensic experts identified the murder weapon from fibres recovered from the rock, which matched Becca's clothing and Davis's jacket, meaning Davis was present when Becca died and was involved in her murder. Forensic psychologists returned their reports, which found that Davis was clinically sane and was not suffering from any recognised mental disorder. During their investigation, police recovered the concoction of foxglove and deadly nightshade mixed with Coca-Cola, suggesting there was some level of premeditation in this murder. During cross-examination, Boy B maintained that he thought Davis was joking about wanting to murder Becca, even though their text exchanges suggested otherwise. As he had done from the outset of the investigation, Davis pleaded his innocence and maintained that Boy B was responsible for murdering Becca Aylward. Davis did not always attend hearings, and when he did, he was described by those who observed him as, quote, totally disengaged and uninterested, only showing interest when he was being discussed. Due to the gravity of the crime, Davis was not granted anonymity, meaning his name could be published in the media. Although Davis maintained his innocence throughout the trial, on July the 27th, 2011, he was found guilty of murder with a majority of 10-2, meaning 2 of the jurors felt that he was not guilty. On September the 2nd, 2011, Davis was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 14 years. Davis's defence barrister stated that he, quote, absolutely refused to acknowledge his guilt. The presiding judge, Mr. Justice Lloyd Jones, told Davis, quote, you killed her because of a deep-seated hatred. He went on to describe him as, quote, devious, calculating and controlling, and stated that he had shown no remorse. After Davis's sentencing, Sonia Oatley addressed the press.
Rebecca believed in the justice system. It was her dream to become a barrister. This dream was cruelly erased by calculated killer Joshua Davis, a young man she trusted and loved. Rebecca was a beautiful, intelligent girl, a promising student, a loyal friend, but most importantly, a loving and much-loved daughter and sister. There is no doubt in my mind that Rebecca was destined for great things, but the evildoer Josh Davis robbed us of watching our precious and perfect little girl flourish into a successful and caring young woman. We will never forgive him for tearing our family apart so brutally, and would welcome the return of capital punishment for the likes of Joshua Davis, who forfeited his human rights when he chose to take my daughter's life. I would like to thank the public who offered their continued support throughout this unbearable time, and would also like to thank the prosecution team and South Wales Police for their meticulous hard work. Rebecca believed in the justice system, and today justice has been served. Thank you. It's undescribable. I hate him actually. He is the devil. As you heard the evidence, there is no mental problems, which makes it even worse. Just hate him for what he's done to our daughter, and mainly to these 2. They're absolutely devastated by what he's done to our family. He was part of the family, lived with us a lot, didn't he? And he betrayed us all. Betrayed us. He was just a perfect gentleman, and he deceived us all. He lured Rebecca that day. Just didn't see it. I wish I could help other parents in saying, well, he did this, he did that, but there was nothing to tell that he could possibly have ever done something like this.
Sonia believed that not all of those involved in Becca's murder were brought to justice. She implored the Director of Public Prosecution to bring to justice the 2 other boys under the Joint Enterprise Law, on the grounds that they had known for months that Davis was plotting to kill Becca, and that they made no effort to intervene or alert the authorities. If anything, they encouraged Davis to kill her. Sonia believes that it's in the public interest that these boys are held accountable. One of the boys is known to have helped Davis concoct the deadly mixture found in his grandmother's house. She has started petitions not only to seek justice for her daughter, but also for other victims of murder. In October 2018, 8 years after Becker's murder and 7 years into his sentence, Davis confessed to the murder of Rebecca Aylward. Sonia believed that this confession, rather than an act of genuine remorse, was another carefully calculated manoeuvre. She stated that this is because it will be much more difficult for him to be granted parole unless he takes responsibility for what he did. So his confession was motivated by self-interest and not remorse. The Ministry of Justice has said that Davis is legally entitled to a tariff review after serving half of his minimum term. Davis may be released by October 2024. However, the parole board will only grant him parole if they believe that he has made exceptional progress in prison and no longer poses a threat to society. So, what do you think? Do you think Joshua Davis should be given a second chance? Or do you think he should remain in prison for the rest of his life? Let me know what you think and post your comments in the comment section.